payload to load this particular version of GoldHEN. Otherwise, it will crash if you use the older payload for the 2.4 beta 17 version. It will not work. It will probably just crash your PS4 when you try to load it, and vice versa if you use the new loader for B17.2 to load the older version of GoldHEN, B17, that will probably also cause a crash. So you need to make sure you're using the correct stage 2 loader for the correct version of GoldHEN. Now, I've updated my PPPWNG GUI program to 1.7.2, which includes these newer payloads for GoldHEN, so they'll be set up to load the latest version, B17.2 or higher. So next, we also just got the release of PS4 debug from CTN123, so PS4 debug is now fully supported on firmware 11.0. This is handy for doing remote debugging, so remote debugging software, creating mod menus and mod tools on all of that kind of stuff, and cheats like, using the multi-trainer software. Any of that kind of stuff can now be done on 11.0 thanks to the release of PS4 debug. And PS4 debug includes more firmwares than just 11.0. It also has support for 10.0, 10.01, and 9.60, although it looks like he's looking for a tester for 9.60, so it probably hasn't been tested officially yet for 9.60, but support has been added. So if you're on 9.60, definitely give it a try and see if it is working for you. Next, we also got an update to the C++ version of the exploits that we're all using here. So this update included a bunch of additional parameters for adjusting the timing of the actual exploit. This could be useful for people who are having trouble loading the exploit, who are getting stuck on certain points. So there's a new timeout option that's been added in seconds, waiting for the PS4's response. So you can add a custom timeout, and it will time out after that point. You also have the option here, wait after pin, so you can adjust the seconds after the first round of CPU pinning. You can also adjust the milliseconds during the heap grooming process. You can also adjust the pcap buffer size in bytes, and you can also disable the second PADI request or PADI request. So normally it waits for 2 of them for better stability, but if you don't have that issue, you can skip one of them and get the exploit loaded a little bit faster. So quite a few new options that have been added there, and you can tweak those timings, adjust those timings, those delays, to try and see if you can get better success with the exploit, especially if you're one of those who are running into issues getting it loaded. So that is definitely a handy thing to see there. So next, we've got a new Android version of the exploits that's using the C++ version of PPPWNG. So this version, again, requires root access, just like any of the other Android versions. So you will have to have a rooted Android device to use it, but I'll leave it linked down below. We also have a version of the exploit that can run on JIO routers. I'm not familiar with JIO routers myself, but if you have one, you can run the exploit on that. I also updated the OpenWRT router method to include the 10.0 and 10.01 support with the latest payloads for GoldHEN 2.4 B17.2. And beyond that, we also have the release of the Apollo Save tool version 1.4.4. This version adds full support for 11.0. It should be able to be downloaded now in the Homebrew store. And the other advantage of this is that you should now be able to use it to activate your accounts. You can offline activate an account with a PSN account ID, which will allow you to use those save files when you resign them, and get them working on any of your other retail consoles that use the same profile. So you'll be able to use them on your PS5 or your PS4 that's on the latest firmware, so that you have the option to do that now. And this has also added custom save decryption for a bunch of additional games, so those particular games will not normally work with the Apollo Save tool, but of course support has been added individually to get those games working, so you can now decrypt those save files for those games. So that has all been added there into the Apollo Save tool. So next, we also have the release of Linux payloads for the PS4 on 11.0. This comes from EchoStretch. So EchoStretch updated the Linux payloads to support 11.0. Now, interesting thing about this is that they will not work just out of the box right now, because we are waiting on a new version of GoldHEN that will fix the bin loader to allow you to load these Linux payloads. And this is basically a problem that we've had for a long time with the bin loader on GoldHEN, is that it's never been able to load the Linux payloads. Typically, you would have to load them from, just the WebKit exploits on 9.00, or you'd have to load the Mira loader and have the Mira loader then load the Linux payloads, because the bin loader in GoldHEN was never able to actually load them correctly. But EchoStretch did put out a video showing him running the Linux payloads, which means there is a fixed version of the GoldHEN bin loader that will be able to load these Linux loader payloads. So we'll just be waiting for Sistro to release a new build of GoldHEN that will support this, and then we'll be able to load our Linux payloads. So expect something like a GoldHEN version 2.4 B17.3 coming out at some point, hopefully fairly soon, and then we'll be able to get our Linux loader payloads running. But the payloads themselves have been updated to support 11.0, and last but not least, Caro also updated his host. So Caro 218.ir/1100. This will take you to a bunch of payloads that Caro converted to run on 11.0. So a lot more payloads are now available. Not all of them have been tested on 11.0. And of course, in order to load them, you will need the bin loader server enabled in GoldHEN to load these payloads. But you can just head to this website in your PS4's web browser, and you now have access to all of these payloads that you can try and run. All of the main payloads there have been ported, but again, not all of them have been tested to make sure they're working yet on 11.0. But if you want to give them a try, they are available there, Caro218.ir/1100. So yeah, anyway, that is basically it for this update. Hope you guys enjoyed it or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And once again, I'll hopefully see you guys